Alright, and welcome back to the channel, buddy, and I hope you're doing fine. So in today's video, we're gonna have a look at Callisto Protocol, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So as always, don't forget timestamps in the description below, so if you only wanna pick certain topics, then feel free to do that. Let's go. So first of all, what is Callisto Protocol? Although I highly doubt it that you never heard of Callisto Protocol, I like to start my review videos with giving you guys, the viewers, a bit of background information. So let's do that really quick. Lots of people think that Callisto Protocol is a bit like a Dead Space 4. It's not in the same universe, we're talking here about mechanics and the style of the game. And they also see it as a spiritual successor of the franchise, which is a fair point, because a lot of developers that worked on Dead Space also worked on Callisto Protocol. I think lots of people were just waiting for a new, fresh horror game where they can shit their pants, but is Callisto Protocol really a horror game? Now, the developers themselves describe it as a narrative-driven third-person survival horror game. We're gonna discuss that in a bit. It plays 300 years in the future in a prison on Callisto. Callisto is one of the moons from Jupiter. Then the outbreak happens and... spoilers. Let's just stop here. The details are then in the story. The developers are striking distance studios to have 50 to 200 employees. At least that's what Google tells me. It's kind of a weird number. I think they probably have a lot of freelancers, and that's why we have there a gap of 150. But hey, it was founded 2019 in San Ramon. Okay. And the only game that they produced is Callisto Protocol. And the publisher is Radeon Inc. Alright. That's it for what is Callisto Protocol. Let's jump into the next chapter. Next up, we're gonna talk about the art style and graphics. Let me show you a few clips without spoiling anything, and I have to say, it's probably visually one of the most impressive games I played in a very, very long time. It has very realistic graphics, and especially the faces. When you look at the faces from the characters, dude, it's a joy to play and a joy to watch if you only look at the graphics and that stuff. The effects, especially the environment, is top tier. Now, there's one thing though, why Callisto Protocol is getting kinda wrecked now on Steam reviews and other review platforms, and that is the performance. So let's talk about that real quick. This is gonna be an interesting chapter. We're gonna talk about performance. Now, I don't want to sound too mean, but the performance was a disaster. Now, I say was, I know it says is on the slide. I'm talking about release day. I played the game on release day, the whole thing, and the stutters were quite a severe negative impact. It was partially really hard to enjoy the game because of that. I did quite some tweaking before I started the stream and played it for my viewers, and I have to say, Jesus Christ, man. This is gonna be a difficult experience because everybody will complain about the FPS. And I think I have read a high-end PC. The specs are in the description. I will also put the specs, the minimum requirements in the description so you can compare a little bit and see the gap for yourself. And apparently it was because they uploaded the wrong files to Steam. And I think the specific issue was shader compilation. Something went wrong there. They fixed it already, and finally I got some smooth FPS. So that happened one day after release day, so at least it was quick. It's still a shame because, yeah, this is basically what they had on release day as a review. You can see that after the first patch, it went already up to mix, but the first impression, the slam happened, and it will probably hurt for quite a while. What I did like about the game, though, is that it has an inbuilt benchmark, and that inbuilt benchmark tells you what you should change in your system to get more FPS. And that pushed my FPS from 60 to 90, which is pretty nice. After the patch, I got 100 FPS on high and even on ultra. And if you struggled, the thing that helped me the most was getting rid of shadows and upscaling set to AMD FSR2. All games need good audio. Let's see if Callisto Protocol delivers. So we talked about performance, and the performance got fixed now, so that is nice. Let's talk about some audio, and I have to say there's honestly not much to complain there. The ambience music is top-notch, the sound effects are top-notch. The voice acting of the main characters is very good, and even the voice acting from the audio tapes that you can find They're decent.
Listen, if you can hear this, just shoot the tentacles or smash them with your baton. It's the only way. Otherwise, they just get bigger, stronger. I can hear them. They're coming this way. I'm not gonna let them get me. I'm not gonna end up like that.
So there's really not much to complain, honestly. Also, the music is top notch. I think not every chapter needs to be discussed into eternity. We just keep it as is. Audio is good. Well, it's a single player game, so the story and immersion better be good. Let's check it out. Now, don't you worry, it's gonna be spoiler free. You know my videos, I'm not gonna spoil anything. And should there be a spoiler, I'm gonna tag it. Now, rating story is always very difficult because, well, people have different tastes, right? So I'm gonna just give my personal impression of that story, and it was okay. I think it was a bit over the top at the last 10 to 15%. However, there's one thing about the immersion that really rubbed me the wrong way, and that was they repeated some scripted events. You know, you go through these horror games and then there's a lid falling down from the ventilation system. It's supposed to scare you, create this spoopy atmosphere. Then you die. It reloads the game after the scripted event. This is important. After the scripted event, you revisit that room and the same thing is happening again. I'm gonna show you an example. So right here, we're gonna jump up this ventilation system here. We're gonna crawl in there and we can see that this corpse is getting dragged away. Now, I die a couple minutes later and the checkpoint is after this event. And I go through this ventilation system again, and this happens. Oof.
You're nearly here. Just keep moving.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. This is you can bitch. Okay, you can bitch about the stutters as much as you want. This is for me actually becoming an issue. And it didn't happen very often. I think it happened like 4 or maybe 5 times. There were some audio cues that played them multiple times. Some visual things that played multiple times. But it's really knocking down the immersion quite a bit. And maybe it was so extreme for me because I played the whole thing in one go. Maybe if you play it like over a week or 2 weeks and then it happens only once per session and not 4 or 5 times, then maybe it's not that big of a deal. But I think that was just like... Wow. That really, I don't want to say made me angry, but it disappointed me. And realism. Now you're probably, Mike, you're playing a video game? What you talking about realism? I'm gonna show you one scene. Not really a spoiler there. So you're falling down, you wake up unconscious, and you take your shiv, and you're freeing yourself from these cables there. Yeah, okay. Honestly, again, I enjoyed the game, but I think that right there, that was just lazy. Let us be entangled in something that we can actually cut with the shift, or show that we're just freeing ourselves and don't give us the impression that we actually cut these cable, like these steel wires there. But okay. Story, again, nothing amazing, but also nothing horrible. More the immersion was that needs some work. Now I had to stop recording maybe a bit too soon because I was reflecting. I put the footage into the video and I was like, okay, that sounded pretty harsh there about the immersion. Otherwise, the immersion of the game is really good because it's visually stunning and the atmosphere with the lighting and everything is on a very high level. Probably the reason why I got so annoyed then that the immersion breaks, right? Because it's so good, you don't want it to break. But when it happens with these scripted events, it's like ripping you out of this amazing immersion actually, and then tries to put you back in there. Alright, just want to clarify that real quick. Let's jump to the next chapter now. Difficulty settings are also important for horror games, so let's have a look at those. Now, I played Callisto Protocol on the highest difficulty that was available on launch day, and I have to say, that is nothing to brag about, if we're completely honest. The game is way too easy. Part of that is the auto-dodge mechanic, or kinda auto-dodge. This is how it works. So, you dodge by either going left or going right. But that's all you have to do. This is not a timed event. So, you can hit the left button and your character strays left while you see the enemy coming running from all across the room. Then he swings, and then all you have to do is click right until the next swing happens, and then you click left. The only way to fuck this up is to hit the same direction twice. Although, if the window between the two swings from the enemy is long enough, then even that works. And that makes it a bit... it's difficult. I personally, at the beginning, I liked it a lot because it made the combat look very smooth, very fluent, because these dodges were so perfect and it was so enjoyable to watch. However, at the end, I really did not like this because multiple reasons. First of all, only dodging left and only dodging right in a narrow hallway doesn't always work and it looks weird and the camera gets kind of entangled then. Sometimes you naturally, because while the threat is in front of you, you naturally dodge backwards. But dodging backwards or holding the S key is blocking, which only works with a couple weapons as far as I know. So if you panic dodge backwards, you will get hit and you're just annoyed. I did not like it because the feedback from the dodge mechanic is non-existent. So you either dodge or you don't. There is no stance that the character takes or anything else that gives you the intel, oh yeah, this dodge will work. So sometimes I'm like, hey, I dodged this, right? And well, you get your arm ripped off. And that is kind of weird because it takes a lot of tension and a lot of difficulty away from combat when all you have to do is time left and right. Not really the challenge. I think there were like 3 or maybe 2 passages in the whole 11 hours and 30 minutes on the highest difficulty where I struggled, and once was because the game gave me wrong information. Not gonna spoil that for you, you can find it out yourself. And on top of that, you got plenty of resources, especially at the beginning. I had to leave loot behind because I could not pick it up. That was not the case in Dead Space on the highest setting. And all this together takes away from the tension. You know, we're gonna talk about that because, well, they claim this is a horror game, right? But if the combat is so easy, regular enemies are no threat, and you have plenty of resources, you give away a lot of potential for nice tension and anxiety that is not in the game. There's also 1 or 2 things that you will find in the game. They work a little bit with gravity, and at that point, when you're kind of smart, game is that thing's just OP. All right, okay, that's it with the difficulty. In my opinion, it could be harder. And then, who would have thought about that? But let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. Now, the gameplay was, for the most part, enjoyable for me. And it's kind of weird how my experience and my enjoyment shifted from the beginning up to the end of it. Because this dodging mechanic, we already talked about it. At the beginning, it looks so good, so nice. Just talking about how it looks, not how it works, right? Because it works way too easy. Makes the combat look very fluent, but it started to become such a frustrating mechanic the more I played it. Due to the lack of feedback, will my dodge actually work or not? And the counterintuitive movement, that there is no dodging back and only to the sides. So sometimes, again, there is this narrow hallway. You're standing at the wall, you dodge once, and then your next dodge would be into the wall. Because if you dodge left again, you're gonna get your arm ripped off. So you have to dodge into the wall, although there is no space for you. And you still somehow dodge. Again, this counterintuitive movement that is requested to play this properly is questionable. But maybe you like it. The combat in Callisto Protocol is insanely melee focused. I was so surprised. Normally horror games, you are vulnerable, you're the prey, you're weak. In Callisto Protocol, Jesus Christ, man, give me a crowbar and everything dies. Melee is way stronger than in Dark Souls. Now you can, of course, Dark Souls? It has a lot of melee in Dark Souls. Talking about Dead Space, obviously. You can, of course, argue, yeah, you're always doing this comparison with Dead Space, but just treat it as a different game. And fair point. Then again, horror games, you should not be that strong in melee, because once you realize how strong your character is in melee and how easy it is to dodge, you're not afraid anymore of the enemies. Because, yeah, I mean, if I don't sniff glue the whole day, dodging is no problem. And shooting feels very underperforming. It feels like hitting them with a crowbar than with, I don't know, a shotgun that normally rips an arm off. It's not really doing much. Not gonna say that I dislike the melee combat, because the dodging mechanic aside, it is super satisfying. The sound effect, when you hit them with the metal poles and everything, it's brutal and it's insanely satisfying. Oh, how do I fucking dodge that? You stop doing that! Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, that's... Yeah, is that... Oh, what are you gonna do? Ooh, your face is ugly. Oh, he blocks it! Oh yeah, you're disgusting, man. Boom! Whoa! Okay, I'm not even surprised anymore. Like, alright, we keep going. I can do this all day, dude. I can do this all day. All fucking day, bitch! Huh? Wrecked? Give me my health back. Games nowadays are expensive, so hopefully you get some value for that. Let's have a look. Now, before we go and rate the game and answer the question, should you buy the game, I want to share with you guys my experience about the playtime and the replay value. I played the whole thing, the highest difficulty, or at least the highest difficulty that was available on release day, and finished in 11 hours and 30 minutes. There is no new game plus though, so the replay value is, I don't want to say non-existent, but for me personally, there's not really a reason to play the game again. I know the story now. It's the same enemies. I have to unlock all the guns again. So one thing that you could argue, you cannot unlock all the attachments for all the guns. So in your next playthrough, maybe you play this gun and you upgrade that fully and not the other one. But maybe you put some limitations on yourself. You play it without the GRP/grip glove. But yeah, the game itself is not offering a lot of replay value. There will be DLC/season pass in the future. That thing is excluded from the review, by the way, because I only want to rate stuff that I played already and not join these wild speculations. So maybe in the future. But that's it with playtime and replay value. Overall, I had quite some fun, so let's talk about what did I like. Now, whenever I stream my game, normally people come in the chat and they're like, oh, you're playing this game. What do you like about it? Why do you play it? With Callisto Protocol, it was a little bit different. People came in, oh yeah, the game's trash, right? Because I saw the reviews and it's so bad. I'd say we take a step back. First, I want to talk about the things that I did like and then about what we can improve. So let's start with the pros. So, first of all, game looks absolutely stunning. No matter the level, it was so pleasant to look at. The level of detail was amazing. Be it the guns, the suits that you're wearing, the clothes that you're wearing, how the characters looked, how the environment looked. It was top notch. The melee combat itself was satisfying overall. The dodging mechanic was not that great. But hitting all these aliens with your melee weapons, that was amazing. That really felt good. It felt like you had a lot of weight in every swing, and that was amazing. The voice acting was top-notch too. I think this is something that does not get appreciated enough in video games when they have some good voice acting. Sometimes only the protagonist has a good voice acting and everything that you find in the game is kind of not that great, but even here with the audio tapes that you find or the audio recordings, everything was pretty fitting. And I didn't feel any drag while playing the game. Normally when I play a single-player game and I play it in one go, At one point, I'm like, yeah, okay, are you please done talking? I want to continue playing so I can finish this. And I didn't feel that in Callisto Protocol, which is pretty nice. Also, the animations in the game, I personally think they were pretty good. Some people were like, the running looks weird. And I'm like, yeah, dude, if you run outside in freezing temperatures with a suit, you would probably run kind of weirdly too. Yeah. Almost no action without animation. This is something that I value a lot for my immersion. Whenever there's like a button and you just interact and then, yeah, it just works. I like it when there's an animation, when you're actually pulling the lever, when you're actually pressing the button. It might not be much for you, but this is the level of detail that I like. And I think almost all interactions have that. I also like the weapon modding. That was solid. Nothing super amazing. It looks cool, but otherwise the idea of it is very basic. You get damage upgrades, you get ammo upgrades. There's like nothing special about it, but it's in the game and it works and it's nice. Then, okay, this might just be me, but I like that there's multiple takedown animations. So there are quite a lot of moments, probably the reason why I had so many resources. I played this kind of stealthy from time to time and just took down 5 to 6 enemies in a row, all with stealth takedowns. That was something that normally gets very, very, very repetitive when there's only one takedown animation. And I think there's at least 3. So thank you for putting multiple of them in the game. Also, the game gave me solid Dead Space vibes. Not in the horror aspect, but everything else felt like being at home. It's almost a mix between Dead Space meets Resident Evil. As always, no game's perfect, and neither is Callisto Protocol, so what would I like to change? I'm gonna say it once more. Personal opinion. So, I think that Callisto Protocol, and this is probably the thing that annoyed me the most about the game, it's not really a horror game. In my opinion, you're playing an action game. There was just too much action to qualify as a horror game. There was a lot of gore and the game is absolutely brutal at times, but that does not translate one-to-one to being afraid, to have anxiety or something like that. For me, a good horror game, I'm afraid. There's a lot of tension. And in Callisto Protocol, I had the feeling a little bit at the beginning, but then I realized how strong I am in melee and the tools that you get. You became borderline OP, alright? And the moment you're not prey anymore, and the moment you become the hunter, it felt more like an action game. And there were also way too many resources. That's maybe because the auto-dodge mechanic was so easy, but there's a couple more reasons. We're gonna talk about that in a second. I think all the score but no tension kinda effed up this whole horror experience. There are games out there that work with this body horror, like for example Scorn, and they create their own amazing atmosphere. And I'm not saying that the atmosphere in Callisto Protocol is bad, but it's not horror. It's not horror. At the end, I just rushed through there. I was not afraid of combat, and it was all Gucci. And you're just too strong. I know I said it now probably 20 times, but you get the grip or GRP, however you want to pronounce that, and that thing lets you levitate enemies, pull them towards you, and then push them away. And if they touch spike walls, they just instantly die. And it's way, way too strong. Whenever there was a passage with spikes, easy peasy lemon squeezy, to be honest. There were also too many jump scares. Like a jump scare here and there, alright, okay. But at the end, and all these jump scares were most of the time out of lockers or out of boxes. So whenever you opened a locker or a box at the end of the game, you're like, there's probably one in there. And 50% chance that there was actually one in there. I'm probably exaggerating right now. But, I don't know. Jump scares, you can put them in a horror game, but they're not making the horror game, right? Also, on top of that, they came with unavoidable damage. So there's no way to react when they came out of the box. They just ate your face and they deal a lot of damage. They dealt damage, not the point, but a jump scare that deals damage. And there were a couple more, not just these little face huckers out of the boxes. Nah, not good. If you're ever developing your own game, don't do the jump scares. Okay, don't overdo it, but don't let the jump scares deal damage. I actually don't know what happens when you get jumped by them when you're like at 1 HP. Will they kill you? That would be brutal, because there's no way to tell beforehand if there is one in the box or not, and you just have to reload because of that. Ooh, that would be bad. Then the next thing is, we talked about that already, so I'm just going to mention it really quick, the auto dodge mechanic and the repetition or the repeating of scripted events. That really broke my immersion a couple times and it just sucked. Also, a bit more variety would be nice. Yes, you get a couple guns and you can modify them, but you have one melee weapon. It would be cool if you find another one and then they have like pros and cons for using them. What you gonna do? Now you heard my pros, now you heard my cons. Yeah, time to rate the game. Final chapter of the day, let's talk about my personal rating. Okay, before we do this, let me quickly summarize. Maybe you just jump to the chapter and have no idea what I'm talking about. Let me quickly summarize the biggest, not all, points from the last couple chapters. So, pros, visually amazing, very good sound design, satisfying eliminations, no drag in the story, almost no bugs and crashes. I think it's the first time that I actually mentioned this because it almost never happened. It was a tiny texture bug and I had one crash in like 12 hours. What they should improve though is that the immersion breaks with the scripted events is kind of meh. Too much action, too little horror, it's too easy. The combat mechanic with the grip actually and with the dodging was... yeah, that needs improvement because it's making you too strong, and the unavoidable damage jump scares. So that leaves me with a total score of 7.5 out of 10, with 10 being like the perfect game. Last time people complained, well, you're not explaining where the missing points go. Alright, let's do this today. So it listed 1 point, a whole point, for not being enough horror. Now you can argue, well, it's not a horror game, so give it 0 points, but that would be kind of... yeah, we don't do this here. But still, it's more an action game than a horror game in my opinion. Also, that the immersion breaks, the unavoidable damage with the jump scares, or jump scares in general, let's put it here actually, in your mind, okay? Unavoidable damage with jump scares overused, with overused jump scares. And the lack of challenging combat. There you go. Now, should you buy the game? Let's answer this real quick. Now, the reason why you probably clicked on that video, should you buy the game? Yeah, this is always a difficult question. So what I try to do with these review videos is to share my experience and knowledge with you guys, so you have a base of experience for your decision making, because as always, it's up to you if you want to buy the game or not. I did not really discuss or gave the game a bad rating because of the stuttering, although I played the whole game with these stutters. I replayed a couple mission parts with the hotfix or with the day 1 patch. Actually, it's a day 2 patch, and the stutters were gone. So I think it was just a mistake on their end, and I was impatient, and it's fixed now. It would be not fair to absolutely murder them now, because with the stuttering, this game would be... I would not recommend it. But it's fixed, and for me, it was an enjoyable experience. Maybe wait for a sale. It is quite expensive. If you're looking for something that is similar to the old school Dead Space, it's getting close, but don't expect the nostalgic horror anxiety experience. It's more of a modern horror / Resident Evil / gore experience. Not a bad thing. The game satisfied my needs, although I expected something else. There you go. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I would say now I'm gonna roll the outro. And that's it for today. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about my reviews and what you think about Callisto Protocol. What were your first impressions? How did you... maybe you played it already yourself. Let me know what you think about the game. Then, as always, I'm gonna share what I think about these people right here, because all of them are fucking amazing. Thank you very much for supporting me over at Patreon. It's much appreciated. Thank you for watching. I hope I can put out more review videos soon. As always, it's a struggle. I see you in the next one. Until then, have a good day and bye bye.